The release of the Durham Report in the United States, I think, demonstrates the way that we could go if we followed the American path, and that is what is now being referred to as the weaponization, i.e., as you say, the small p politicization of the Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, and not only them, but also the taxation authorities, the IRS. It is being alleged in America that the IRS, the taxation office, is being used against political enemies. That is, that if you misbehave politically, from the point of view of those in power, they sue the taxation office onto you. We haven't seen that in Australia, have we?
Thankfully not. But the Sofronoff inquiry has unearthed, if you like, on a smaller scale and a different scale, concerns about the structure of the justice system in the ACT. Superintendent Moller gave evidence about his concerns with the role of the Victims of Crime Commissioner, Heidi Yates, acting as a support for Ms Higgins throughout this trial. There probably is a role for a publicly funded supporter, a social worker perhaps, to ease the pressure on people who complain of sexual crimes. I think that's reasonable. But the reality in the ACT is that Heidi Yates is an extremely senior public servant. She sits on a committee, and she was sitting on this committee before the Lerman case, in which a review was being undertaken of hundreds of complaints about sexual assault in which the police did not charge people. So Miss Yates, on the one hand, is overseeing a review of the conduct of the police, while at the same time she was supporting Ms Higgins and, according to Superintendent Moller, acting as an advisor to her, while the police were attempting to investigate an allegation in which she had made serious charges that relate quite clearly to the same category of matter that Miss Yates was overseeing. It's problematic, and it goes to what seems to be a confusion of duties in the ACT justice system. On the one hand, you've got the police required to adopt what Superintendent Moller described as a victim-centric approach to the investigation of sex crimes, while on the other hand, the police, and you've got to have some sympathy for them, they're responsible for rigorously investigating these allegations and preparing a case. And one of the matters that is of crucial importance in these sorts of cases, and it's not just the Lerman case, it's the credibility, if you like, of the complainant. And it's impossible, if you think about it, to test the credibility of a complainant without, in these particular cases, causing some distress. Yet the victims of crime legislation requires the police to try and minimise that. And I would not be at all surprised if Mr Sofronoff, in his report, has something to say about the way those two policy approaches have subjected the police to what looks to be a dreadful conflict. And this might have something to do with the fact that some police found it so stressful that they had to take leave. I don't blame them. If police take their duties seriously, and it looks as though they have in this case, they're in a dreadful position. And I think it's incumbent that sooner or later there needs to be a better way of reconciling those two policy goals. The current system is clearly putting too much of a burden on police. There's too much conflict in their duties.